might or might not be remembered, depending on the timeline you're in.
Yeah, yes.
Our thing of the week, Edge of Tomorrow, also known as Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah. We were talking before the show. I actually have the Blu-ray, and I'm gonna make myself. Let's see if I can make myself bigger here. I don't. Hopefully, I don't mess things up. But no, that's not it. That's not it. Okay, that's a little bit better. Um, so this is the cover art for it, and if you look at it, it has the tagline "Live, Die, Repeat." And if you look at the cover art, I mean, you think that that's actually the title of the movie and not Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that. So the movie was actually not particularly successful at the time. Uh,
No, and
and I think it was like widely acknowledged at the time that I think like some marketing term came up with Live, Die, Repeat for the Blu-ray edition. I
yeah,
think it was almost like, damn it, why didn't we make that the title of the movie in the first place? People were confused by the title Edge of Tomorrow. Live,
yeah,
Die, Repeat is memorable and descriptive.
yeah, yeah. And Cengiz enjoys the movie, so that's good. Um, yeah,
I, I
and
think it didn't help it that it came out before Tom Cruise's like redemption arc really started.
yeah, yeah, he hadn't quite fully made his comeback yet. I mean, he did Tropic Thunder, which I think helped him out a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
though Tropic Thunder, you'd be forgiven for not realizing it was him, what with the fat suit and the bald cap and everything.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Um, but yeah, but no, you're right. Yeah, this movie came out like when he was kind of starting to make his return, and so that might have.
After the Oprah couch incident.
Oh yeah, the Oprah couch, yes, and yeah, the Matt Lauer interview. Um,
I love this woman.
yeah. Okay. Oh, Chinggis said he thinks that the Edge of Tomorrow was the U.S. title, and other countries that use Live Die Repeat. Yeah, that probably makes sense.
If true, somebody screwed up.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think the big reason it didn't that's also too. I think a lot of people kind of had a hard time wrapping their head around the concept.
Yep.
Um, but
So,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
uh, so to kind of stop talking about the movie and talk about the movie.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Uh, so this was Daniel's suggestion to watch because it is fun actually seeing the same thing occasionally. Because otherwise, you're just sort of going, uh huh, uh huh. Yep,
Yeah.
that certainly sounds like a thing, DB.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the premise of this movie is that aliens have invaded, and these aliens have an unusual talent. The They kind of operate like a living virus, uh, well, actually, like hive organism, like a large single organism,
Right.
and their clusters are able to actually reverse the flow of time, and they're basically unbeatable because if they die, time rewinds, and they can just try again.
Right.
Um, they've invaded Europe and mostly taken it over, and there's a large Allied invasion of France that's about to happen out of England. That
Very yeah, like D-Day. Yeah.
Yep, very D-Day, but with battle armor.
Right. Yeah. And so the movie starts off with Tom Cruise's character. He plays Major Bill Cage, and he's basically PR for the U.S. Army.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
and
makes the recruitment posters and stuff.
right, yeah, and because uh, he was ROTC when he was in college, and then he had an ad agency, but then he lost it because of the war, and so he
Hmm.
goes back to the army to do marketing and PR. And so he shows up in England. He meets with this British general who's leading or commanding the invasion, and the general tells Cruz, I'm sending you off to England to cover the war, cover the invasion. And he's like, well, no, I don't, I'm not combat, I don't
Yeah,
do combat.
I
And
don't go where there's danger.
yeah,
Um, and and
he's
then
squeamish around blood, and yeah.
and then Tom makes the strategic error of threatening a general,
Yes. And
and
yeah.
he ends up being busted down to private so fast his head spins, and
Yeah.
actually being thrown out there onto the battlefield.
Yeah, yeah, he gets thrown right into this company of soldiers, completely untrained. He's never used one of these
Yeah.
armor suits before, and
It's like, how do I turn off my safety? And people refuse to tell him.
yeah,
And I want to just say, I wonder if this movie was kind of designed around Tom Cruise having not the best reputation at the time, because you
yeah.
don't feel bad about anything bad happening to him because he is a weaselly little shit.
Oh yeah, yeah, um, yeah, and yeah. So then, yeah, he gets thrown into it, and he's just doesn't know what he's doing.
Yep.
And then of course, what ends up happening when he's in the battle is the alpha. That's the one. Those are the ones that can know when time is happening and everything.
Yep.
Uh, He dies, and the alpha dies, and then its blood gets into Tom Cruise.
And then he wakes up in exactly the same place where he woke up when he was brought into the staging area.
Right. So yeah. So now he is stuck in a time loop,
Yep.
and during the course of him repeating the same day over and over, he runs into Emily Blunt's character. I can't remember what her
The Angel of Verdun.
the Angel of Verdun, right? Or
Who,
the Full Metal Bitch.
yeah, that melee weapon there is as I recall, a piece of a helicopter blade that she just picked up and started using.
Right. Yeah. And
It's like, oh, she's this amazing fighter.
right, yeah, she's this amazing fighter, and that was part of the vignette at the beginning of the movie where Cruz's character is talking about how she had very minimal training,
Hmm.
and she somehow was able to win this battle, single handedly. It's
At,
like,
at first, it sounds like she's a Ray.
oh yeah, yeah, but then during the course of it, he runs into her, and she notices that he knows things before they happen, and she tells him, "Well, come find me when you wake up."
Yep.
So
She had the skill but lost it.
right. Yeah. And so, as part of him repeating the same day over and over again, he's getting training from her,
Hmm.
and so that they can figure out how to take out what they call the Omega, which is
Hmm.
basically the hive mind of how they're controlling time.
For StarCraft players, it's the Overmind.
Yes. And so basically, the movie is them trying to take this thing out so they can win the war and beat the aliens.
So it's a little bit Starship Troopers. It's a little bit Groundhog Day.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things I actually found out about this when I was doing a little bit of research is it's based on a manga.
Really?
Um, yeah, it's the manga's called like uh, oh, it's got a weird title. All you need is kill, I think.
Yep.
And the
All you need is
creator of
kill.
yeah, the creator of the manga actually was inspired by video games.
Right. Which makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's I mean this is uh yeah, this is a real
It was a
I'd
light
say
novel first, apparently.
oh yeah, right.
Also, a very short manga, just 2 volumes,
Uh,
which makes sense for something this length.
right. Yeah. And well, let's be honest, there isn't really much story you can do with this.
Right.
Um but yeah, I mean it's a fun action sci-fi action movie. Yeah, yeah, only 2 volumes. Yeah.
Yep.
Um But yeah, it's a fun sci-fi action movie. If you like, time loop movies,
Hmm.
and of course it does kind of follow the kind of the standard of a character who's caught in a time loop is like we were saying before. Cruz's character is just such a weasel at the beginning, and
Yep.
then but by the end of the movie, he's a battle hardened warrior.
Yep. And I gotta say that I won't give a spoil exactly, but I will say that the third act is the weakest of the three.
Yeah, it felt a little rushed, I think.
I
Um,
also think that it's one of those things where, so I remember reading in a book once about the making of Monty Python that if you ever wondered why Monty Python just randomly shifts from scene to scene and refuses to have a punchline, it's because the crew there always kind of felt like you'd be watching this 5 minute sketch on another TV show and you'd hit the punchline and it was never worth the squeeze. Like
uh,
the fun part was the buildup.
right,
And I kind of feel like it is extremely similar with this type of setup where it's like it's extremely hard to have the buildup of a time loop or the end of a time loop be as good as the actual or the conclusion of the time loop be as good as the buildup.
right, yeah,
Like, yeah, I won't spoil it, but basically, part of the problem with the time loop story, and when you think about it, is that it's hard to build sacrifice into it without some sort of limit.
right,
And so it's very easy to have the ending feel unearned or to be like too happy or too neat.
yeah,
So I do not feel like this movie quite hits that balance. But up until then, it was very riveting.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, especially the dynamic with between Cruz and Emily Blunt.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, it's on HBO or not HBO, it's on Max.
Max. I Daniel, I think I was kind of live streaming, or not live streaming, but live Discording my responses to you. Did I
Yeah.
complain about any buffering problems this time? Because I don't think it happened nearly as much as it did with What Lies Beneath.
No, I don't. No, you didn't complain about that. Although you did mention the ads being kind of odd.
Oh, that's right. So I was a cheap ass, and I uh, bought my Max with the ad-supported tier. And the weird thing there was that, like, okay, so you'd expect a certain amount of ads for different actual companies, like, and of course AT&T had some ads because AT&T still owns a big chunk of Warner Brothers after their acquisition slash spinoff to Warner or to Discovery.
Right.
But and you'd expect, there were a couple of things for Max shows, right?
Hmm.
But there were also ads for Paramount Plus and Peacock shows, which really surprised me. And
Yeah.
I wonder if they have some sort of like deal with each other because I know they all have an ad supported platform, but who knows how many ads they're actually getting. Maybe, and they might just figure, well, if you're going to if you're going to go for a subscription service that isn't Netflix, you might go for multiples. So we should pool resources. But that's
Yeah.
just baseless conjecture.
Well, I mean, if they're willing to, I would say if they're willing to pay for the ad revenue and pay for the ad time and ad space, might as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
it does kind of make the smaller streaming space a little bit a snake eating its own tail if they're
Yeah.
paying each other to advertise to each other for their unprofitable streaming services.
That's true. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
worth a watch.
yeah, I think so too.
Give it a solid